I'm Dr. Paul Firnhaber. As many of you know, this is my Tuesday night spinal workshop. We had lots of inclement weather today, so I'm not doing this in my office. My lovely, sweet wife is filming me here at home in front of my fireplace. But as you know, the show must go on. So tonight's topic, which is the last topic of this year, is a topic on toxicity and how that affects the body. And as you know, my goal in practice and my goal in these talks is to help educate you about how your body works and about how to make better and more intelligent health decisions for your life and for your health and for your family. And so this last talk on toxicity is going to help educate you on things that you can stay away from and things that you can do that will really make a difference for your health. Now, chemical and metal toxicities may be they may be the most overlooked health issue in America today. There's lots of labs that do chemical testing, mold testing, toxicity testing, heavy metals, but this isn't done very often, and it should be done more. There's certain things on a normal blood test that I can look at and tell if somebody's toxic, but really testing the toxicity directly is really the way to go. Now, if you look at what the EPA has found in our bodies, and I won't go through this in great detail, but the EPA did a study of fat biopsies in human bodies, and they found that 100% of fat biopsies contain styrene. Now, we get styrene from, styrofoam cups, drinking hot liquids in styrofoam cups. We've all done it. And styrene is really a neurotoxin which can inhibit the ability of the body to concentrate. It affects our brain. 100% of the human fat biopsies contain dioxin, which we get from fish, meat, dairy products, and it's in bleach, okay? So if we use bleach, we're probably gonna get some of that. Dioxin is a potent carcinogen and can also cause other deformities in the human body, in the fetal deformities. 100% of the human fat biopsies contain xylene, which you find in gasoline and glues. And xylene can cause headaches, confusion, changes in balance. And 100% of the of the fat biopsies contain 1,4-dichlorobenzene, which you get, that's from public restroom deodorizers. That's what you smell in public restrooms. Here's another one. There's a chemical called 4-nanophenol, which is typical of a common chemical that is found in in tissue, and it causes breast cancer. It's associated with breast cancer. One of the main places that this is found is in laundry and dish detergents. 4-nanophenol actually binds with estrogen receptors in the breast tissue, and this increases the risk of breast cancer and other health disorders, because we know that estrogen is a cell growth stimulator, and so you don't want to have too much estrogen in your body. So why do women tend to have 9 times more autoimmune diseases than men? Well, that's actually pretty easy. Most toxins act like estrogen, and women have loads of estrogen receptors in the body. So, women have estrogen receptors in the brain, uterus, ovaries, and breast tissue. Most of the toxicity that I'm going to be talking about today acts like estrogen, and that's one of the reasons women tend to just have more health issues than men do, for this reason. There's a lot of industrial chemicals that are known to disrupt hormones. I'm going to talk about 2 of them. Phthalates and bisphenols Now these are you find these in plastics, okay? I mean, there's also like polychlorobisphenols, which are used in coolants and solvents, dioxins, but phthalates and bisphenol A are found in almost all plastics. And what happens is the hormones affected by these compounds are estrogen, because phthalates are actually very, very powerful, a very powerful estrogenic effect in the body. In fact, there was a pharmaceutical company at one time that was actually going to use phthalate as an estrogen replacement. They affect androgen and testosterone, and they affect thyroid. Now, some of the other chemicals that can affect thyroid, and I do this in my thyroid talk, are chlorine, bromine, and fluorine. They fill the thyroid receptor sites and they block iodine, especially bromine and fluorine. And so, where do we get bromine? Well, in brominated bread. Okay, we get it in brominated white flour. It's in some pharmaceuticals. Fluorine is also, we get fluorine in water, tap water. Fluorine is also in some pharmaceuticals. So we're exposed to this kind of stuff all the time. It's no wonder people have so many thyroid issues in this country. If you look at BPAs or bisphenols, they're at least 100 times more toxic than we have been led to believe for the developing fetus. It's really, really important that a woman who's pregnant stay away from plastic. Not drink out of plastic bottles, not microwave in plastic. Just stay away from it as much as she can. The risks are largely unrecognized, and they have a significant negative effects on male fetuses from 6.5 to 14 gestational weeks. So male fetuses, male babies are much more affected by plasticizers. It's astounding that the number of younger men that I see these days with testosterone issues and low sex drive, I never saw that when I was first in practice 40 years ago in 1980, never. I didn't see it in 1990. I didn't see it in 2000, but between 2000 and now, the last 20 years, I've seen a lot more young males that are losing their sex drive, and that's crazy. I mean, that's just not normal. And a lot of this is the toxicity that we're exposed to. Another toxin that we're exposed to are GMOs. We find GMOs are definitely linked with corn, and one of the toxins in GMO corn is the Bt toxin, which is designed to break open the stomach of insects. Doctors at Sherbrooke University Hospital in Quebec found that the corn Bt toxin in the blood of pregnant women and their babies, as well as in the blood of non-pregnant women. So this is actually beginning to be more common in our bloodstreams. Now, why is this important? Well, how is this Bt toxin going to affect offspring? How is it going to affect the developing fetus? We don't know. I don't know if there's any studies out there right now. Maybe there are. But these things are really important, and we need to really think about this. So again, if you're a woman and you're going to get pregnant, stay away from GMO foods. We'll talk more about this in just a minute. Roundup herbicide has been found in a whole host of common foods. The biggest thing is oats. Any oats that are non-organic have lots of Roundup in it. Breakfast cereals, Quaker Oats, most of your granola bars. Scientists speculate that Roundup may lead to autoimmune diseases, food intolerances, and cognitive problems and learning disorders in newborns. According to an article in the 2015 edition of the journal Neurotoxicology, Roundup residue in foods can accumulate and lead to Parkinson's, disruption of the neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine. And how much of that do we have in our culture? Look at all the people that take the SSRI drugs like Prozac and Paxil. The Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism in March 5th, 2015, had a very interesting article by a researcher by the name of Leonardo Tresande. And this paper was on hormone and endocrine disruptors. And what he says is that toxic exposure to these endocrine disruptors can come from many areas: pharmaceuticals, industrial solvents, personal care products, aluminum can linings, plasticizers, pesticides, and environmental pollutants. These pharmaceuticals can cause deafness by poisoning the hair cells in the ears. So certain pharmaceuticals can actually make you deaf. And these are the classes: aminoglycoside antibiotics, anti-malarial drugs, loop diuretics like Lasix, and chemotherapeutic platinum agents, industrial solvents, and nitriles. These are all things that can cause hearing loss. And how many people in our culture have hearing loss? How many people do you see walking around with hearing aids? You see a lot of them. When you pump gasoline or pour gasoline into a lawnmower and you smell that gas, immediately you've got benzene in your bloodstream. That's how fast it could get into you. And I would recommend that you, when you put gas in your mower or gas in your car, that you do it upwind from the gas so you can't smell it, because it permeates your blood and your cells immediately. Many air fresheners employ carcinogens and volatile organic compounds. The Natural Resource and Defense Council study of 13 common household fresheners found that most of the surveyed products contain chemicals that can aggravate asthma and affect reproductive development. That's why we never have air fresheners in our house. They are toxic. You need to avoid them. You need to never get air fresheners. If you look at a lot of the health and financial costs due to environmental toxicity exposure, they're tremendous. Now, this was done in Europe, okay? But the greatest cost was for neurological problems, including ADHD, which is at $132 billion per year. By endocrine disrupting chemicals type, pesticides were the most costly, accounting for $120 billion. Phthalates used in food wraps, cosmetics, and shampoos and vinyl fluorine resulted in 24,800 additional deaths among 55 to 60-year-old men. Other estimates of burden of disease and cost from environmental toxicity: 316 autistic 8-year-olds per year, costing the government $200 million. And I think there's a lot more, obviously there's a lot more autistic kids than this every year. It's about 1 in 88 kids now. This is just from environmental toxicity. This doesn't, we're not going to include vaccinations, some of the other things that we know that can cause it. 31,200 10-year-olds with ADHD and 42,400 obese 4-year-olds just from environmental toxicity. This is Tresandi's research. He describes the epidemic of biological dysfunction from environmental toxicity as supported by a substantial mountain of evidence. Toxic metals can be a problem. We know mercury fillings in teeth degenerates nerves, and it can be associated with Alzheimer's and multiple sclerosis. Mercury is released, in power plants that burn coal. Mercury is released into the air. Cadmium can accumulate from seafood, refined foods, refined grains, some drinking waters. Cigarette and cigar smoke contain cadmium. The reason they do that is because tobacco, when it's grown, is very efficient at absorbing cadmium from the soil. Here's another thing. In the process of making high fructose corn syrup, they make it with mercury. And there's mercury residues. They're very small, but there are mercury residues in high fructose corn syrup, which is a good reason to avoid that. High fructose corn syrup is also toxic to the body because it causes a process in the body called glycation. In other words, fructose is detoxified in the liver, and the liver will hook it up with proteins, and these glycated proteins actually age the body. They cause wrinkles, arteriosclerosis, and other aging things that happen in the body. They cause the tissue to become stiff and brittle. Here, you see a nice disc that's very, very healthy. This is a disc that's glycated. This is a very unhealthy disc. You see it's brown. And you know, when you brown food, like when you brown bread in the oven, that's actually a form of glycation. Let's see. All of a sudden, this isn't, here we go. There's some safe and simple steps that families can take to limit their exposure to these chemicals. And these are pretty simple. You can avoid microwaving plastic. You can avoid eating from aluminum cans or drinking fluids from aluminum cans. You can eat organic as much as possible. Eat a lot of cruciferous vegetables, because cruciferous vegetables contain a lot of sulfur that help detoxify the body. Don't use personal care products that contain chemicals. And just when you can, just air out your house every now and then, because a lot of the dust in the house contains these toxic chemicals. So, if you want to think about this. Toxicity increases what's called the allostatic load on the body. Now, here's what I mean by that. The allostatic load is all the insults to our body that eventually causes us to die. So, I mean, it can be like really bad eating over a period of time, lack of exercise, tremendous amount of stress, lack of sleep, subluxations. But over time, over our life, we get this, what we call this allostatic load. This load of things that actually causes ill health over time. Toxicity increases that. So the more you can take off the allostatic load from your body, the healthier you're going to be and the longer you're going to live. And so some of these things, like I said, are toxicity, lack of exercise, eating refined, processed, and sugary foods like most people do this time of year, not getting enough sleep, stress, not handling stress very well. These are all things that increase the allostatic load. And over time, this really affects your body and causes breakdown and ill health in your body. Well, toxicity is part of that allostatic load. So you want to keep that tamped down as much as possible. So that's all I have for you. If I were in my office, I would ask questions. But let me tell you about some of the exciting things that we have planned for the new year at Lincoln Disc and Nutrition. We're going to have a contest coming up in February and March where you can win some great prizes. We got a really nice up-to-date smartwatch that we're going to give away. It's not a cheap one. It's a pretty nice smartwatch with lots of features on it. We're going to give away a air fryer, a digital air fryer, and we're going to give away a gift certificate to a restaurant here in Lincoln. And the way you can win those prizes is if you come to my classes live, you can get raffle tickets to put into a jar. If you bring a friend, that's 3 extra tickets. If you refer somebody to the office, that's 15 tickets. So we've got this all on a board in my office. If you like our Facebook page, that's one raffle ticket. If you write a Google review, that's another one. And so we're going to be doing this for the first 7 weeks of the year. And I have some really, really powerful spinal workshops planned for this time. The first one's going to be on osteoporosis and bone health. And then we're going to talk about COVID and nutritional arrows to defeat COVID. We're going to be talking about anti-aging strategies. So we've got some really exciting new talks coming up for the new year. If you're interested in any of these prizes, you come to the talks, you get some raffle tickets. And after 7 weeks, I'm going to have Carmen stick her anointed divine little arm in that jar and pull out tickets, and we're going to see who wins those great prizes. So thank you very much. Appreciate all you tuning in tonight. God bless you, and we'll see you next year.